sensing this danger. This is the greatest showman! He is floating on air now! He's going to send it back.
It's the Multicultural AFL Footy Show with Venessa Harbir and George Gracios.
Hello and welcome to the NEMBC's Multicultural AFL Footy Show. I am Venessa and on tonight's panel we have Harbir and George. Hello guys.
Hello Venessa.
Good evening Venessa, Harbir.
There were certainly a few surprises this week with at least 3 games providing thrills, including the first draw of the season. Thursday night provided a close contest between Port Adelaide playing at home and Geelong. It was until the last quarter when Geelong's Jeremy Cameron kicked 3 quick goals to win the game by 21 points. Hawthorn surprised when they managed to overrun the Sydney Swans by 36 points at the SCG. An injury-depleted Fremantle at home against all odds produced a great game of footy, taking victory over the Gold Coast by 27 points, while surprise-packed Adelaide, who had a score of 0-0-0, halfway into the second quarter and 42 points down, stole the game away from St.Kilda by 6 points, with an incredible come-from-behind victory. What are your thoughts, Harbir and George, on the last games?
Well, I believe with Geelong, I think they finally broke that hoodoo that was attached to them, that after a while they can't win. So good for them to change. But they needed that X factor in the form of Jeremy Cameron, which has come to Geelong and made it look like much better team. I think with him coming in, he has given much more liberty and much more freedom to Tom Hawkins to play his game, play his body more in the game and dominate the other team. And also on the other hand, Gary Rohan, like he's playing good as well. So it's all of them together. But I firmly believe that it's all due to the Jeremy Cameron and the thing that he brings in. You see him helping at the back and the front, in the middle, everywhere he goes along. And then I think they've got that X factor, and with Patrick Dangerfield back in the team as well, I think it's going to be very hard to beat that team the way they're going. And they showed that against Port Adelaide, which should have won that game.
Yeah, well, Patrick Dangerfield was a fantastic addition, a welcome addition to the side. But as you touched on, Harbir, Geelong finally got rid of that hoodoo of poor performances after a bye. So they'll be very, very happy with themselves. They'll be riding high in confidence. And Port Adelaide, well, their midfield was exposed. They weren't able to counter the brilliance of Port Adelaide's midfield. And of course, Geelong having that 3-pronged attack, Hawkins, Cameron, and of course, Gary Rohan. They're just a fantastic they have a fantastic forward line, and their defence led by Tom Stewart is amazing. So a well-deserved victory. They're going to look to consolidate their place in the top 4 in this back half of the season.
Yeah, definitely. And your mob, Hawthorn, they came from nowhere, I would say, and especially against a team who's been performing that well. They're youngsters with the Buddy Franklin in there. I think they probably, I don't know, got a bit complacent, or they didn't expect that kind of ferocious tackles from the debutant or the rest of the team as well. It wasn't just him. I think it was a very good team effort, and you could see everyone doing their part, Jago Mira. And I think Tom Mitchell took it probably more personal against Sydney with his performance on the night. But all in all, Alistair Clarkson, he's still a master, and the things he can do with players, whatever he gets, it's beyond expectations.
Yeah, well, Jay Newcomb had a fantastic debut, a mid-season draftee, and he set an AFL-VFL record for the most tackles on debut. So Hawthorn needed that hunger and that determination to win the 50-50 contest. And I think the Sydney Swans were caught off guard by Hawthorn's ferociousness. They looked at times a little bit fatigued and a little bit pedestrian, but Alistair Clarkson, what a fantastic coach. We know he's an absolute superstar of a coach. He set up the side in such a way where they were able to negate Swans' use of the corridor. We know that the Swans like to attack straight out of their defence down the corridor, down the middle, and Hawthorn were able to cut that off and make the Sydney Swans players go down the boundary line, and that just played into Hawthorn's hands. So I was pleasantly surprised that the Hawks had a win. I tipped Sydney to actually win on the night, but it was a great performance by the Hawks, and hopefully that gives them some confidence leading into the remaining games.
No, definitely. And Gold Coast, on the other hand, I think they let a opportunity slip by as well. They were not there, especially Matt Rowell. They probably too much expectations on him, but still, you could probably give it to him that it was his first game after a while. But I think it was expected more for him to do in that game. He couldn't deliver at that stage. On the other hand, I think with all the injuries, at home, Fremantle are just too good. No wonder I think only Bulldogs been able to defeat them. Otherwise, they've been winning all their games over there, so which is fantastic.
Yeah, they'll be buoyed by that performance, Fremantle. They've had their injury concerns, no Nat Fyfe, of course. So it was great to see that their players stepped up. I like the game of some of their younger players like Adam Cherry.
Yep.
He was terrific. And they really needed to win, Dockers, just for their own confidence and their self-esteem, I guess, because they have been criticised in the Western Australian press in recent weeks.
Yeah, no, definitely. And St. Kilda, things are going bad to worse for them at the moment. As you mentioned, they were, until the second quarter, half of that, they were goalless, I would say pointless at Adelaide. But then the way they came back and they just didn't let them score. It was like 42, and in the end they only managed 60. On the other hand, everything was scored by Adelaide. And if you haven't watched the last goal from Riley Philtop, please go back and watch the highlights. That was just a killer.
Yeah, they'll be devastated, the St Kilda side. They, as you mentioned in the top of the show, Venessa, they were goalless, 0-0-0. They didn't register their first behind until the 16-minute mark of the second quarter, and a minute later they finally got on the scoreboard with a six-pointer, and slowly they worked their way back into the contest. St Kilda have blown what remaining chances they had of making the finals. Carlton are talking about having a review. I think the Saints will need a review because that second half capitulation was, in my book, disgraceful.
George, there was an incident in the second quarter in the Crows and Saints match when Adelaide's David McKay collided with St Kilda's Hunter Clark, which broke his jaw and had to stop. It was just an unfortunate accident. However, the AFL's review officer referred McKay to the tribunal without a charge. What are your opinions on this unfortunate accident, and what are the chances of a charge being laid? Would this kill the hardball contest and turn the game into a farce, with players backing away from contests in fear or receiving heavy sentences, and their chances of winning a Brownlow? What are your thoughts?
Well, as you said, Vanessa, it was an accident, and there is an AFL hearing being conducted tonight. The AFL will argue that that bump was unreasonable in the circumstances, and that regardless of whether Mackay was contesting the ball, he still contravened the general prohibition on unreasonable conduct, including in contesting the ball. They will also argue that the incident should be graded as careless conduct with severe impact and high contact, which would mean a minimum 3-game suspension. Now, if he is suspended, this will radically alter the way the game is played. It's a physical game, plays bump and shove and push, and if this decision goes against St Kilda, it means that coaches will instruct their players not to go in with vigour for those 50-50 balls, and it almost turns the sport into a touch football. Players will be scared to go in for the hard ball, and that's what the game is built on. Tough, contested football. It was an accident. I don't think David Mackay meant any malice or intentionally tried to hurt Hunter Clark, but it's just an unfortunate accident. These things happen on the field at all levels of the game.
Yep, and look, there are two schools of thoughts at the moment with regards to these injuries and everything. One is like where they say that the welfare of players should take the top priority, and the after effects that they have after those injuries. But then again, as you mentioned, like this is a contact sport. Yeah, so I think my son plays footy, so we all sort of brace for some sort of injuries over there. So, and if someone does that, you say that, oh yeah, this kid is better than the others because he's going for the ball without sort of worrying about himself. So that's considered good. So we are taking a big thing out of the AFL by getting rid of that. And also, what it comes along is with the holding of ball rule this season, and then these kind of incidents where AFL is projecting one sort of strategy with those injuries, I think there is something which is brewing at the moment. This is the change is probably coming or something like that, where tackles are sort of becoming obsolete, but that might ruin the game in itself as well.
Hunter Clark, he was very unlucky, and we must also take his health into account, and we hope he has a speedy recovery. We know that he sustained a broken jaw out of the incident, so we hope, we wish him all the best. But David McCoy would be extremely unlucky, I feel, if he's rubbed out.
There should be a distinction between an accident or something that you provoked, right?
Yeah, a deliberate, willful incident, and I don't think that it was deliberate or willful.
Thank you, guys. We'll be back with more footy reviews and previews after this break. Back again, following up on our reviews, and the draw between North Melbourne and the GWS Giants was very disappointing for supporters. Both sides made some gigantic mistakes in the last few minutes, which cost either side the game, and the big one from Perth, West Coast, 22 points down halfway in the last quarter, put on a great performance to come back and beat Richmond by a goal in the last minute of the game. On Monday, Collingwood defeated Melbourne by 17 points and gave retiring coach Nathan Buckley a great send-off. Boys, what are your thoughts on those three games?
Well, I would say what a win for Collingwood, and what a way for the players to pay tribute to such a great fighter. Nathan Buckley has been, that's what he's been doing all his life. He's been fighting on and off the field, I would say, a bit too much off the field lately, but on field he was a great player, he was a great mentor as well, I would say, but I think that's probably where the inspiration came in for the Collingwood. Otherwise, you never would expect in this year 2021 for any team to come up that good to beat that Melbourne Bob by that many points even. So huge credit to the players at the moment. What they've done for Nathan Buckley, they've just given him a memory for whole of his life.
Well, he's been involved with the Collingwood Football Club as both a player and a coach for nearly 30 years. So it's sad that he's no longer involved with Collingwood. It's just a really strange feeling, but I'm proud that the Collingwood players gave him a perfect send-off. They obviously cared and respected Buckley enough. And I watched the performance thinking, where has this effort been all season? Yeah. Had they been showing the same level of commitment and determination, perhaps Buckley would still be the coach and offered a coaching extension. So it was a joyous occasion on sort of one respect, one level, but a bittersweet moment that his coaching career has now come to an end, that he wasn't able to get Collingwood to the level that the administration and the fans wanted him to. But looking at the Melbourne perspective, that was a disappointing loss. Let's make no mistake about it. It was an opportunity for them to, again, lock in that top spot. And perhaps their hold on the top spot is very shaky now. And it gives an opportunity to your team, the Western Bulldogs, to sneak in and claim that spot. So they'll be asking a few questions. Have they peaked too early?
Yeah, look, we'll see probably after bye. That's when probably we get that answer. And what a great day we had, such a great occasion for M&D. Daniher, what the amount of work they've done this time. It was sad to have that whole freeze thing in that in the MCG with no crowds and stuff. But it's a huge credit to that person, what he has done for what he wanted to do, and it's a great sport all over Australia for that cause. That's awesome to see.
I'm pleased to be he was included in the Queen's birthday honour, so a well-deserved accolade. His efforts in fundraising have been enormous, and let's hope that this particular fundraising campaign raises even more money. So well done to Neil Danaher and Melbourne Football Club and everyone else for supporting the cause. But Melbourne, again, just touching on them, it was an opportunity that they unfortunately missed out on. But credit to Collingwood. And in other performances, GWS, great comeback to draw against North Melbourne. North Melbourne again will be ruining that, and no pun intended. They missed out on opportunity to cause an upset also. They led by 28 points at three-quarter time, but GWS, to their credit, fought back really well. Toby Green was instrumental and Lloyd kicking that goal to draw level. But how good were North Melbourne's young players? Yeah,
definitely. I think both the teams can say that it was their game. With Toby Green coming in, I would say they held an edge over the team, over the other team, North Melbourne. So I think both the teams would say, and Daniel Lloyd, as you mentioned, he kicked those goals to bring them in, but he couldn't get that final point just to get over the line. So which would be very sad for him. But all in all, we must say that North Melbourne is improving, which is a very good sign. There's nothing wrong in losing, and then especially if you're going for a build, you know that there's going to be a few losses on your way. But to do that, and then you can see that improvement, so that's a very good thing for them. And on the other hand side, the reigning premiers Richmond, I think they were given very good shock by West Coast. We know that they are very strong at their home ground, no doubt about that. But the way the game was played, and they are missing out very important players in the form of Kelly as well. Like there was that issue where you would have said that they hold an edge, but the way those ruckmen played in both the teams, I would say, and especially Nick Natnui, that the way he played, he was like a force to reckon with. And our own multicultural player, Marbot Shaw, I think he, at the start especially, he gave it to him, and he was there till the end. Although I would say like Natnui probably won at the end, but still he was there and he had a fantastic performance. All in all, I think the way they played until the whole game, I think West Coast deserved to win that.
Yeah, I agree, Harbir. Terrific comeback by the West Coast Eagles, and Josh Kennedy, a great goal in the dying seconds of the match.
Thank you for those comments, guys. There were also coach resignations this week, none bigger than Collingwood's Nathan Buckley. Who may his replacement be, and where to now for Bucks, George?
Well, there's a huge range of talent out there that are looking at taking over. Ross Lyon has been mentioned. Also, people like
Sam Mitchell.
Yeah, Sam Mitchell, and even an ex-Collingwood legend in Mark Williams.
Yeah. So there's few of them. I think it's up to Bucks where he wants to go as well, what he thinks of his future as well. I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of opportunities, and the names you mentioned, anyone could fit into that role and Collingwood and take the Collingwood forward.
Yeah, I think he'll end up in the media for the short term.
Yeah, that could be good. Nice. Coming up, we look at this week's previews, but for now, we are off to a break. See you on the other side. We continue the program with a preview of round 14, with the Friday night blockbuster from the Qatari, where Geelong faced the Western Bulldogs. And I would have to say this will be a thriller. On Saturday, the Gold Coast at Metricon go head-to-head with Port Adelaide, while North Melbourne play host to Brisbane. The GWS Giants take on Carlton at Giants Stadium, and on Sunday, Hawthorn play Essendon. Both these games should make a good viewing. Harbir, what are your thoughts?
Well, I would say that's the game that coming up on Friday. It turns out to be a blockbuster, I believe. That's what I'm hoping, because you don't want number 2 and number 3 competing against each other, and the match doesn't go to the expectations. The way Geelong are performing at the moment, I think they've got their tails up. And we know Bulldogs, the whole season, sort of, they've been having their tails up as well, with like a couple of losses here and there. But apart from that, both these teams are in a very good form, and it will be a really good challenge for them to put it to each other. To see where they are at, and I think they both got a good barometer against in the form of the other team. So let's see who comes on the top. I believe I I'm really sad that there won't be any crowd at the game, which is a bit of a disaster. But we all going through these tough times at the moment. But yeah, I think for me, if we go for the tipping purposes, I think Geelong tend to be a bit strong on their home turf, so I'll probably go with Geelong.
Yeah, well, I'm not riding off the Western Bulldogs. Their form has been terrific. If they can win this match, they go on top of the ladder, so there is that incentive for them there.
Definitely. And I would say the other game, Gold Coast Port Adelaide. I think Port Adelaide time to redeem themselves, and there's a good time for Gold Coast to create a surprise as well, because we know that if they play their best footy, they can surprise a few teams. And Port Adelaide is giving the other teams that chance to go over them. I think they should grab it with both hands.
Well, it was fantastic to see Matty Rowell return to the lineup, and hopefully he can get a few more possessions and provide that drive for his team. But Port Adelaide will be determined to improve on their performance because they were terribly disappointing in stages against Geelong last week. So this will be a great match, and I'm tipping Port Adelaide to prevail.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. North Melbourne, Brisbane. I think Brisbane, they are too strong. But then again, it's a good chance for North Melbourne to see where they are at with their build-up as well. So Brisbane, I think they will probably demolish that team the way they are going. But let's see if North Melbourne can stay and put up a fight until the 4 quarters.
Well, this match has been relocated to Hobart because of obviously the ongoing issues with COVID in Melbourne. So that changes the dynamics of the game a little bit, but I'm still tipping Brisbane to have a very comfortable win.
Yeah. Oh, as you said, it can change, and the venue, we've seen that in the past. And Carlton, GWS Giants, I think Carlton really needs to up their ante to beat GWS Giants at their home. I think they'll be buoyed by the Toby Green. They'll be buoyed with the presence of Toby Green, and to have him in the team, I think he's an inspiration to the whole team. And I think Carlton, I don't know what can inspire them, because there's all those talks going on, external review and this and that. Not sure what's that gonna have effect on the mentality of the players at the moment. So I don't know what the status they are in. So I think it's gonna be an easy win for Giants.
They've been terribly disappointing in the last couple of weeks, Carlton, and I expect GWS to rub their noses in it, unfortunately, for Carlton supporters.
Yeah. No, I think then again we got Mob against Essendon. I think the kind of performance Hawthorn put on this time, it was miraculous. But I think I don't know if they will be able to continue that performance. And Essendon, we've seen this year that they're probably another team who is knocking on the top 8 position somewhere. So I think they will be up in the full vigour against Hawks. But we all say that like where other teams play 22, Hawthorn play with player number 23 in the form of Alistair Clarkson, because his technique and everything, it's far beyond. So I believe Essendon might come on top, but it's going to be a very good contest between these two teams.
Yeah, well, it was a match that was supposed to be played at the MCG. Again, because of COVID, it's been relocated to Tasmania. I'd love to see what Alistair Clarkson has up his sleeve on this occasion against the Essendon Bombers. Tasmania has been a very happy hunting ground for the Hawks. Definitely. So I'm tipping us to have a win.
Oh, good. Thank you for your comments, guys. Don't forget to please check your local media closer to game day for the latest details for the times and venues. And that brings me to my footy tip selections of this week. I'm going for Western Bulldogs, Brisbane, Port Adelaide, GWS Giants and Hawthorn. That is all we have time for this week. You can also watch us on Adelaide on Channel 44 Friday evenings, on Aurora Foxtel TV at midday Saturday, and on the NEMBC YouTube. You are listening to this podcast on the Community Radio Network, and the AFL Diversity Language News can be heard on national multicultural radio stations. I am Venessa Gatica.
I'm Harbir Singh.
And I'm George Gracios.
Thank you, and see you next week.